I wasn't supposed to be home that day. The work conference in Richmond was canceled last minute due to some freak regional shutdown. A power grid failure, apparently. I didn't argue. Packed my bag, skipped the networking brunch, and caught the 9:40 train back to Savannah. The idea of surprising her crossed my mind as soon as I booked the ticket. Something small, sentimental. Maybe I'd stop for flowers at the station or bring home those almond croissants she liked from that bakery near King Street. I was thinking about her smile, the real one, not the Instagram-filtered one, when I unlocked the front door. But something in the house felt paused. It wasn't just quiet. It was like the whole place had inhaled and forgotten how to exhale. A weird stillness. The kind that makes you step lighter on instinct, like you've just interrupted something. That's when I saw it, the tie. It was hanging on the bedroom doorknob. Berg *NDY silk, paisley print, with a soft luster that looked too polished, too intentional. It wasn't mine. I don't even own a tie like that. Haven't worn one since my cousin's wedding 3 years ago, and even then it was a rental. This one looked expensive. Worn just enough to show it had history, but not with me. First, I tried to laugh it off. Maybe a delivery guy left it? That made no sense. Maybe she bought it for someone else? Even less sense. The rational explanations were thinner than the tie itself. Moving deeper into the house, the inconsistencies piled up fast. In the kitchen, there were 2 coffee mugs on the counter. One of them had a bright coral lipstick stain on the rim, a shade she hadn't worn since last summer. During that brief, trying bold colors phase, I remembered because I used to tease her, calling it her sunset mouth. She eventually admitted she hated how it made her teeth look yellow, so she stopped. The other mug was mine, the one with the tiny crack near the handle I keep forgetting to replace. 2 mugs. One familiar, one dressed in a stranger's shade. I turned the corner toward the living room, and there it was, her phone, abandoned on the couch, screen still glowing, a photo open in the gallery app. It took a second for my brain to register what I was seeing. Her face, leaning into someone else's, her cheek against his shoulder, lips parted in a wide grin, eyes squinting from laughter, the kind of laugh that's full body. And him, unmistakable. Chris, our neighbor from 2 doors down. He was wearing that stupid black and green flannel he always mowed the lawn in, the one she once called Pacific Northwest cosplay. His arm was slung around her waist, fingers hooked into her belt loop. The caption on the photo read, "You're the worst influence." No emojis, no hashtags, just that. I stood frozen. Something about the image, not just the pose but the ease, the comfort, made it feel old. Practiced. I walked toward the bedroom, almost out of body. I wasn't even sure what I was looking for. Maybe for some kind of confirmation that I wasn't losing my mind. And then I saw it. That same flannel shirt from the photo, draped over the armrest of the reading chair beside our bed. Like it had been tossed there without care. Like it belonged. The sound of the front door opening pulled me back to myself. She came in through the side entrance, earbuds in, sports bra peeking out beneath a loose tank, skin flushed like she'd just finished a run. Her ponytail swayed as she kicked off her shoes and walked straight past the tie on the doorknob. Didn't even glance at it, as if it had always been there, as if it was invisible. She didn't look surprised to see me. "Oh," she said, casually pulling out her earbuds. "I didn't think you were coming home till Sunday." I said nothing. She gestured to the tie as she reached for a water bottle from the fridge. "Chris stopped by earlier. He left that. He just got back from his brother's wedding and forgot it here. I told him I'd return it when I saw him next." She took a long sip, then tilted the bottle toward the mugs on the counter. "And those," she continued, "we had coffee, just for a bit. He dropped off the stepladder. You know, the one we loaned him last month? We chatted for a minute. He's going through some stuff, I guess." I still hadn't spoken. "Oh, and the selfie," she added, gesturing vaguely toward her phone, which she now picked up and nonchalantly locked, tucking it into her waistband. "He dared me to try on his flannel. We were joking about it. I looked ridiculous, so we took a photo. Every single point I might have raised, the tie, the mugs, the photo, the shirt, she addressed, one by one, each wrapped in perfectly plausible explanations. Too perfect. She was breezy, composed, not even defensive, just effortlessly unbothered. Like she'd had time to rehearse. I forced a nod, said something non-committal like cool, and walked past her into the hallway. That night, I watched her as she curled up on the couch in that same tank top, scrolling through her phone like nothing had changed. She asked if I wanted to watch that food competition show we both liked. I said I was tired and went to bed early. She didn't follow. I laid in the dark, listening to the faint hum of the TV, trying to steady my thoughts. She had redirected every suspicion like it was choreography. Natural, precise, polished, and yet something in my gut twisted in a way it never had before. I didn't have proof. Not yet. But I knew, in that deep, primal way you know when something sacred has been moved ever so slightly out of place. It was subtle, but the feeling was unmistakable. I was no longer in a shared space. I was in a curated one, and nothing in it felt like mine anymore. After that day, I stopped trusting the surface of things. The tie, the mugs, the flannel, all explained away in under a minute, like she'd practiced in the mirror. And maybe she had. But what stuck with me even more than the photo on her phone was the way her voice never wavered. Not once. That wasn't panic. That was choreography. So I started looking back. Not at what I saw, but at what I'd missed. At first, I chalked it up to me being paranoid. Suspicious. Overthinking. That's what she always said when I noticed something that didn't add up. Babe, you overanalyze everything. But this time, I let myself lean in. Rewind. It began with her runs. She used to be a morning person. Out the door by 6:30. Back with a smoothie in hand and music still playing in her ears. I'd barely be awake, and she'd already have her steps in. But somewhere along the way, her runs shifted to midday. Lunchtime wellness breaks, she said. Sometimes even late afternoon. Helps me reset, she explained, unbothered. Midday is the new morning. She started locking the door behind her. Not in a safety-first kind of way, but like she didn't want anyone accidentally walking in. She also stopped leaving her fitness tracker synced to our shared app. That used to be her favorite thing, showing me her route, calories burned, the best time split. Now, it was all glitched or didn't upload right. Then there were the skincare bottles. A new brand appeared on her shelf. French labels, glass packaging. Not the kind she picks up at CVS, these were the kind you have to order online or buy in boutiques. I asked her about it once. She waved it off and said she was trying something she saw on TikTok. But there was a receipt in the trash a few days later, from a store in Charleston, a town she hadn't mentioned visiting in months. Then there were the clothes. She started ordering things with brand tags I'd never seen. Minimalist, bold lettering, labels in German and Italian. One package had a customs form on it. Another arrived gift-wrapped. She said it was a birthday present from a friend. Her birthday was in April. It was July. That's when I noticed she'd stopped asking me for help with zippers. She used to call me into the room for that. Can you zip me up? Sometimes just to be playful, even when she didn't need the help. But now she came out already dressed. No more asking. No more twirls in front of me to see how it looked. I didn't even realize how much I missed those little rituals until they were gone. And the texts, they changed too. She used to send them all day. Little things. Look at this cat video, or remember this song? Or, they just discontinued your favorite chips tragedy. That was our language. Stupid, warm, effortless. Now it was only logistics. Groceries, what time I'd be home. Don't forget the car needs gas. No emojis. No typos. No voice notes where she laughed mid-sentence. Just efficient communication. She turned into a calendar notification pretending to be a wife. At night, I started noticing how she stayed on her phone after we said goodnight. Back to the screen after she thought I was asleep. Always with her back to me. No more late-night giggles or, oh my God, look at this post. Just a dim glow, then darkness when she sensed I shifted. Then there was Chris, our neighbor, married, soft-spoken. kept his lawn better than anyone on the block. She used to describe him as boring but useful when she needed a ladder or asked him to hold the gate open while she unloaded groceries. But lately he was around more. His car started showing up even when his wife wasn't home. He'd knock on our door more frequently, sometimes with a package, sometimes to return things I didn't even realize we lent out. A drill, a book, a USB cable. Every visit ended with a quiet laugh between them, the kind of laugh that carries history. Inside jokes I was no longer a part of. One afternoon, I came home early from work. Chris's SUV was parked out front. I walked in to find her leaning against the kitchen counter, barefoot, sipping from a mug I didn't recognize, a travel mug with a fishing logo on the side. The same one I'd seen him use when walking his dog. I asked if he was here. She said, "He just left." No trace of him anywhere, except the faint smell of his cologne that didn't belong in our house. Her social media changed, too. She used to post about us, trips, little moments, anniversary dinners, that time we burned pancakes and made cereal with chocolate chips instead. But the us started fading from her feed. Instead, there were moody coffee shops, sunsets, aesthetic table setups. And in group photos there'd be Chris, always in the background, always blurred, but undeniably him. His shoulder, his watch, his profile caught just enough to make me wonder if it was intentional. When I brought it up, she laughed. "You're seriously playing I Spy with my Instagram now?" she said. "You're reading way too far into it. It's just a picture." But that's the thing about patterns, they don't scream. They whisper. And once you start noticing the shift, you can't unsee it. She changed her scent, switched to something darker, muskier, not her usual floral thing. This one lingered, got into the couch cushions. I smelled it on her scarf one night, even though she said she hadn't worn perfume that day. It wasn't just new. It was someone else's suggestion. I could feel it. She stopped resting her hand on my shoulder when she walked past me in the kitchen. She stopped humming when she loaded the dishwasher. She used to fold her legs into mine when we sat on the couch. Now she kept a pillow between us. Our bed stayed neat. Too neat. She said she'd been sleeping lighter, that she just didn't move much anymore. I once blamed it on stress. Work deadlines. Anxiety. But it wasn't stress. It was distance. Subtle, surgical distance. I even started looking at our groceries. She started buying oat milk. Neither of us drinks oat milk. She said she was experimenting. But then why was there only one open at a time? Who was drinking it? Because I wasn't. And she didn't. I found a receipt one day shoved into a coat pocket. A tab from a rooftop bar we'd never been to. 2 drinks. 1 appetizer. Date and time matched the night she said she was working late. She claimed it was a client meeting. But the bill was split, and the signature wasn't hers. Maybe the worst part is that she never got sloppy. Not once. No lipstick on collars. No suspicious hotel charges. No cliché red flags. Just the quiet undoing of a life, slow, calculated, graceful. Like someone gently packing away a season of their life without disturbing the shelves. I told myself I was being dramatic, that maybe she was just growing, evolving as people do, that it wasn't another man, that maybe it was burnout, maybe she just needed space. But all those maybes became thin cover for the truth I already felt in my bones. I wasn't looking at my wife anymore. I was looking at a version of her she hadn't invited me into. And she was getting good at playing normal. Almost too good. She told me she was leaving town for a spa retreat. 2 nights. Her college friend Mallory had invited her. I didn't question it. I even helped carry her weekender bag to the car. She gave me a quick kiss, said she'd be out of service most of the time. Remote cabins, no signal, and promised to send photos when she got back. I smiled and waved as she drove off. Then I stood on the porch, watching the taillights vanish, unsure why my gut churned like it had swallowed a brick. I didn't plan to follow her. I didn't even mean to stay home that weekend. I had plans with my friend Nate, an overnight fishing trip, just to clear my head. But early Saturday morning, as I was getting ready to leave, my phone buzzed. A message from our elderly neighbor, Mrs. Kavanaugh. Her power was out, and she needed help resetting the breaker. We live in a row of older duplex-style homes. Ours shares a side wall with Chris and his wife, and behind both units is a narrow service hallway that connects to the utility boxes, a leftover from when the neighborhood was built in the 60s. We rarely use it. It's narrow, cold, smells like paint thinner and rust. The breaker panel is tucked at the far end, behind an old wooden door with a warped handle. So I grabbed a flashlight and headed over. The hallway was darker than I remembered. The single overhead bulb flickered. Dust hung in the air, and the floor creaked with every step. I had to wedge my shoulder against the side door to get it open. But it wasn't just Mrs. Kavanaugh's circuit I saw when I stepped in. Directly across the utility room, through a partially open storage door I didn't recognize as ours or theirs, I saw her. My wife. Not at a spa. Not in a cabin. On the edge of a cluttered work table, legs wrapped around Chris, blouse hanging off one shoulder like an afterthought. His hands moved along her spine in a way that was too familiar, too rehearsed. They didn't notice me at first. Her eyes were closed. His face was buried in her neck. They moved slowly. No urgency. No guilt. Just rhythm. Just int asterisk Macy. And then she looked up. Not a gasp. Not a yelp. Just stillness. Like someone caught in a dream who doesn't quite wake up. Her eyes met mine across the narrow distance. She didn't scream or try to explain. She just froze. Chris turned around, finally registering me. He didn't say anything either. I stood there for maybe 3 seconds. Maybe less. I couldn't move. The flashlight in my hand trembled against my leg. I turned and walked out, the door slamming behind me without a word. No footsteps followed. The walk back across the backyard felt like it took an hour. My pulse had gone quiet, like my body couldn't process what it had seen fast enough to produce emotion. Once inside, I sat on the bottom stair of our entryway, still holding the flashlight. My bag for the fishing trip was by the door. Her empty mug from that morning still sat on the counter. The house felt untouched, but everything in it now looked like a lie. For a while I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even breathe heavy. I just sat there, letting the truth thicken around me like smoke. Because this wasn't the beginning. It was the finale. The moment where everything clicks. Not because something new happens, but because you finally see what's been there all along. All the quiet exits. All the perfectly worded texts. All the blurry photos where Chris happened to be, just passing by. The new skincare. The new schedule. The sudden shift in scent, posture, presence. It wasn't chaos. It wasn't impulse. It was choreography. I spent the rest of that Saturday in a daze. She didn't come home that night. No texts. No check-ins. I didn't expect her to. Whatever story she had told me, she had to stick to it now. She had played the long game, built her defense, rehearsed the role, shaped the optics. But she hadn't accounted for the one door no one used. The one hallway that didn't exist in her version of the story. I hadn't planned to catch her. I hadn't even suspected that much. But I had stumbled onto the truth, raw, physical, undressed. And there was no redirecting that. The next morning, she returned. Pulled into the driveway around 10:15 a.m. Still dressed in the same leggings and oversized sweater she'd left in. No spa glow. No tote bag of organic teas or fancy oils. Just her. Calm. Composed. I watched from the upstairs window as she got out of the car, checked her phone, and walked to the front door like nothing was different. When she came inside, she greeted me with a soft, "Hey," like we just had an ordinary weekend apart. No guilt. No hesitation. No mention of anything. Instead, she unpacked groceries she said she grabbed on the way back. Almond milk, bananas, a bouquet of sunflowers. I watched her arrange them in the vase like they meant something. Like this was still her home. I didn't say anything. She asked if I wanted to go for a walk later. Said the weather was nice. I declined. Said I was tired. She nodded, told me to rest, and went to fold laundry. The rest of the day unfolded like any other. Except nothing was the same. I kept replaying what I saw in that room. The way her hand clutched the back of his neck. The way their bodies moved together like it wasn't new. like it had been happening. Often. And I realized then, I wasn't watching infidelity. I was watching routine. Later that night, I opened our security system dashboard. We had cameras installed years ago, just outdoor, motion-triggered, for packages and raccoons. But they stored clips for up to a week. I scrolled through footage, timestamp after timestamp. And there he was, Chris, walking through the side gate at 2:18 p.m. Friday. Leaving again around 4:42 p.m. No bag, no tools, just his phone in hand. Casual. Like he belonged. 2 days earlier, another clip. Same path. Same window. Her running time. Every instance I checked, the same pattern. He never used the front door. Never stayed more than a few hours. Always entered when I was either gone or scheduled to be somewhere. I started pulling the clips, saving them. Not out of rage. Not even for revenge. But because I needed to prove to myself I wasn't imagining it. That I hadn't built this in my head. That what I saw in that utility room wasn't a fluke. It was a routine she had carved into our lives without me noticing. I went into her office and opened the drawer she always kept locked. Inside were printed itineraries, folded neatly. A burner phone, turned off. Receipts from a boutique hotel 2 towns over. Not under her name, but under M. Holloway. A name she once used in college as a joke. Room 407. Booked 3 times in the past 4 months. Midweek stays. She hadn't just strayed. She'd relocated her loyalty. What I thought were cracks in our marriage weren't accidents. They were exits she had already planned. And I had just walked into her final scene by accident. She went to bed early that night. I stayed downstairs, lights off, TV silent. The silence was thicker now. Not awkward, decisive. This wasn't a marriage. Not anymore. It was a set. And I had stumbled off script. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was something worse. Aware. The morning after I saw her with Chris in that side room, she moved through the kitchen like it was any other Monday. She poured coffee, measured oatmeal, hummed a song I didn't recognize. She asked if I needed anything from the store. I said no. She nodded like I just confirmed the weather. No twitch in her tone. No searching my face for emotion. Just routine. The thing is, I waited for something. A crack. An apology. A panicked explanation, even a weak one. Anything to signal she felt what I saw. But she offered nothing. Not even a lie. The silence wrapped around everything. It made the normal feel grotesque. Later that week, I was looking for a phone charger and remembered she kept extras in the drawer under the side table. I pulled it open, but instead of a cord, I found her old laptop. One I hadn't seen in over a year. A rose gold MacBook she'd stopped using after switching jobs. I don't know why I opened it. Maybe because everything else in the house suddenly felt like a locked door. No password. Just a plain desktop with one folder sitting dead center. Personal reset steps. The name sounded harmless. Self-help, maybe. I clicked it open. Inside was a single document. A list. Clean, bullet-pointed, clinical. Step 1. Reduce emotional touchpoints. Limit playful texting. Remove check-in habits. Step 2. Minimize physical proximity. Remove casual affection routines. Step 3. Introduce neutral third-party mail. Chris. Build frequency of presence subtly. Step 4. Reclaim individual identity. New skincare. Solo activities. Private routines. Step 5. Maintain public image. Shared photos. Light social mentions. Dinner appearances. Step 6. Gaslight suspicion if, when confronted. Stay composed. Emphasize growth. Step 7. Ensure exit appears mutual. Lean on language of healing, not blame. Timeline, 8 weeks. Goal, clean transition. No confrontation. No guilt. My blood went cold. This wasn't an affair born of chaos or passion. This was architecture. She hadn't tripped into betrayal. She had mapped it, frame by frame, touchpoint by touchpoint. I reread the list 3 times, hoping it would make less sense the more I saw it. But no, it grew sharper, meaner, realer. I shut the laptop and just stared at the floor. I had spent weeks questioning my sanity, wondering if I was seeing too much, feeling too little, making mountains out of strange coffee mugs and unfamiliar perfumes. But there it was, written like a startup launch plan. My undoing wasn't random. It was strategy. That night, she asked if I wanted to have dinner together. She made shrimp linguine, my favorite. She lit candles, played music. She even poured us wine. I stared at her across the table and saw a woman playing house with precision. Every gesture was a script. I barely touched my plate. "You okay?" she asked. I looked up. "Are you?" She smiled like she hadn't heard the question. Later, she mentioned feeling more balanced lately, said she was rediscovering herself. Used words like realignment and emotional grounding, phrases she'd never used before. They sounded lifted from a wellness podcast. I didn't push. Instead, I started archiving. Every photo, every half-truth, every whisper of a lie she dressed as progress. **TS of her texts. Recordings from the doorbell cam showing Chris entering and leaving, always while I was gone. A time-stamped video of her reaching for his hand as they stood on our back porch. Emails she forgot to delete. And the spreadsheet, that horrible surgical document that reduced our life into a 7-step exit plan. I didn't collect the evidence to confront her. I did it to remind myself that I wasn't crazy. Because when someone rewrites the story so gradually, so gently, you start to question the punctuation in your own sentences. I needed reminders that I saw what I saw, felt what I felt, that the moments I noticed were real. Like the way she stopped finishing my sentences. She used to do that all the time, not out of impatience, but because we were in sync. She'd laugh before I got to the punchline. She'd know when I was about to ask if she wanted Thai or sushi. But now she paused. Let conversations die mid-air. Every interaction began and ended on her terms. Her world had shrunk to solo language. The bed was another marker. She stayed on her side. Always. Even in sleep. No more midnight limb drift. No more reaching for me out of habit. Our mattress, once a topography of shared space, became a split continent. She kept playing the role. She still asked about my day. Still laughed at the right moments. Still left the occasional post-it on the fridge reminding me to take my vitamins or sign a form for insurance. But it was all performance now. Carefully lit, softly spoken, clean exits on every line. She wasn't apologizing. She was landing a plane. And I was still in the seat, strapped in, watching the cabin lights dim. I didn't fight, didn't yell, didn't give her the argument her strategy accounted for. That would have made it easier for her to claim closure. Instead, I gave her silence, the kind that speaks louder than any confrontation, because I realized something. She didn't want out because she was unhappy. She wanted out cleanly, and her plan had accounted for everything, except what I'd do with the truth. After reading the Personal Reset Steps file, something inside me changed. Or maybe it finally settled. I didn't confront her. There was nothing to confront anymore. The betrayal had already happened. The damage had already calcified. This wasn't about catching her in a lie. It was about watching how long she could perform a version of herself that no longer existed. And I let her. She kept cooking dinners. She started using phrases like energy shift and clarity work. She made banana bread one night and told me she was reconnecting with her inner homemaker. She asked if I wanted to meditate with her. I said I was tired. She nodded like she understood. She said she was feeling more grounded. I wanted to say, "Of course you are. You're not lying to yourself, you're lying to me." But I didn't. Instead, I smiled. I nodded. I replied with short, reasonable sentences. I was becoming an accessory to her script. And she liked that. She liked that I wasn't making it difficult. But I was watching, documenting, preserving the truth like evidence in a cold case that no one else cared about. It wasn't about revenge. Not yet. It was about making sure I wouldn't forget the reality under the performance. She had made her affair feel like fog, something she could wave away as if it never truly existed. But I was collecting the proof in silence, anchoring myself to what was real. Like the jacket, Chris's jacket, navy, worn, with a tear in the left cuff, showed up in one of her mirror selfies. She had posted it to her stories, captioned "Coffee runs and cloudy skies cloud." He was behind her, just out of frame, his reflection caught in the hallway mirror. I **ted it, saved the video, logged the timestamp. The photo disappeared from her story 24 hours later, but I had it forever. Another day, I noticed a grocery receipt on the passenger seat of her car. 2 frappuccinos, 1 lemon tart, a single use bag fee. The timestamp, 3:14 p.m. She texted me at 3:20 saying she was stuck in traffic and might be late getting home. She'd used to bring me treats like that. Now I was outside the loop, watching her create new rituals for someone else. She told me she had a solo brunch on Sunday. I checked her location history. Her phone had pinged at a cafe across town, one with a very visible outdoor patio. I pulled up the security footage later that week through a mutual friend who managed a property next door. She wasn't alone. Chris was sitting across from her, wearing sunglasses, smiling like he had no idea I existed. But the most damning proof was still digital. Her fitness app showed her taking runs in areas she couldn't have reached on foot. I mapped the time, the distance. The data didn't add up unless someone was driving her part of the way, or unless the runs were a lie altogether. I checked the phone logs. Calls deleted. Voicemails cleared. She had started using apps she previously said she didn't like. Encrypted messaging platforms, disappearing chats. I checked the recycle bin on her laptop. Inside were half-deleted emails, drafts of messages she'd written to herself. Notes, plans, things to say if things got messy. She had scripted versions of the breakup, ones where we both agreed it just wasn't working. Ones where she thanked me for my patience during her growth. Copied them, saved them, filed them into a folder on my drive named Evidence, No Gaslight. Each day, she'd give me another piece without realizing it. Her behavior became almost performative, overcorrecting. She packed my lunch once, left a handwritten note on top. "Thanks for being you." I laughed, quietly. She hadn't written me a note since our 3rd year of marriage, and that one was sarcastic, written on a napkin during a fight. She started sitting closer to me on the couch. Light touches, suggestions to watch something together for old time's sake. But the touch never lingered. Her eyes never stayed locked. It felt more like an actress hitting a mark than a wife reaching out. I responded with measured silence. Never mean, never cold, just aware. I was the fool in the story who stayed quiet. And that made me dangerous, because she had planned for confrontation, not observation. She tried testing boundaries, mentioned that she was considering taking a solo trip to recenter. She named a city I'd never heard her show interest in. I didn't object. She waited for me to ask who she was going with. I didn't. She almost seemed disappointed. Chris was still around, less visible now, but more deliberate. He'd wave when we passed on the sidewalk, eyes quickly shifting away. Once, he left a package at our door that she claimed was accidentally delivered to him. It was addressed to her in her own handwriting. She said it was a mix-up. I said sure. She didn't look me in the eye. At one point, she mentioned deleting her old social media. "Too many distractions," she said. "Bad energy." But it was strategic. She was erasing traces of us, the comments, the memories, the timeline that connected her to me in public view. I logged it all. A few mutual friends noticed the shift. One of her friends, Maria, asked me at a birthday dinner if we were okay. She phrased it gently, but the look on her face told me she already knew something wasn't. I shrugged, said, "People change." Maria didn't press, but she gave me a long hug when she left. That hug said, "I'm sorry you're the last one to find out." And still I stayed quiet, because sometimes silence isn't surrender. Sometimes silence is strategy. She had built her plan to fail upward, to exit with grace, to keep the lie polished. She had counted on me to either explode or disappear. But I didn't give her either. I let her perform. I let her cook the meals. Let her post the filtered photos. Let her talk about her new season of growth. Let her keep pretending this was a transition, not an affair. Because the longer she kept playing the role, the more I collected the footage of her forgetting which version of herself she was supposed to be. I wasn't trying to win. I was trying to remember that I wasn't crazy, that this wasn't love, that her exit wasn't spiritual, it was logistical, and that somewhere deep down, she was scared of what would happen if I stopped playing along. That night, while she slept, I compiled everything: photos, texts, timelines, the strategy document. I titled it Truth_Compilation and sent it to her parents, sister, closest friends, and to Chris's wife. By morning, her phone lit up like a siren. No screams, no denial, just blinking silence. She had lost the narrative. She cooked dinner that weekend. Candles, wine, 2 plates. No mention of what happened. She stayed in character. But I was already gone. The divorce was fast. No apology. Just metaphors. She had written the script. But I wrote the ending.